What's up, my precious little pack, and welcome back to VEGA Conflict. The Dynasty is coming to a close in a few hours. I'm just farming up for a few more things before it ends. I actually changed my focus from actually new tech to something else. I actually wanted to get the next base upgrade started, and if you take a good look at the resources up on the left side of my screen, well, clearly I started something big because I'm almost empty on the two main for upgrading structures. It's not much of a surprise, but to advance in the game, of course, you're going to have to spend a lot of resources. So this time around, I decided I'll spend the event farming up resources. And I've done just that. I've been farming up nothing but resources. The point of doing that was so I could upgrade the fleet bay. Because I'm starting to get into heavier and heavier ships, I need an upgraded fleet bay. So that's exactly what I did. I got it started on the second day of the event. Towards the end of one night, I decided I'd play for about an hour before I went off to take care of a few other things, then went to sleep. Most of what I did was specifically farming up the resources and stuff like that, but everything I did in turn led to upgrading it, and now I'm just farming up the tech. The next thing I want to get is the shields for these ships. I want to get the shield, the level 1, for the ships, these guys, the Guardians, because I'm going to build a Guardian fleet for a specific reason. I'm not going to say the reason now, you'll all have to wait, but it will be worth it. Just like when I get the Vindicator Cutter, it will be the next one that I use, specifically for the speed boost. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be mass farming certain fleets for a specific reason. During the alien mobilization, I got my piloting carrier up to level 3, and I got half of what I needed for the Mark IV. But I can't build the Mark V yet, because I still have to research it, so that's going to be one of the things that I'll have to take care of. But it will be taken care of in time. Everything just takes time in the game. But I also have a few other things I would like to talk about during this video. So I'm going to bring them up real quick while I let this fleet repair. But along with all of that, I would just like to say thank you for any and all support on the VEGA series. I've noticed it's been getting a lot of views and whatnot. And it's just impressive to see such a small channel get so many views compared to the subscriber count. And that aside now, I'd like to talk about what I have pulled up in the background. I'm not going to show you guys, but I'm going to read it off. And I'll leave a link to the post that this is on, because this is one of the main end quarter things for Kixeye. But this is what I've come to the conclusion of for just a few things. I have 3 things I want to talk about. First off is beneficial to the game. The development team will be removing repair time from equipable components for player-based modules to allow for lower repair time across the board, which in turn allows the players to have more of a choice between higher health or high damage bases in general, instead of having to choose what we have now, because right now you want to keep the repair time low, but after this change it'll be strictly, if your base gets damaged, it won't be redundant, and well, it won't be necessarily as bad, because everything will be focused on what the base structure has in health by default, not by what you add to it. And a simple improvement, in my opinion, that could be implemented with the ships as well, for them to use the same system, so their base health is their actual repair time and nothing added to it increases it. It would allow for longer playtime without having to remain logged out for long periods of time, and it would generally improve the play experience because you'd be able to play more often. And the next thing I have to talk about is the Marauder faction. This is... I watched so many videos on these, and it was hilarious. The first Marauder ship is just a joke, outright. They may have lower build time and repair time, but they can't stack up against their counterparts. They lack the resistance against the damage types we already use, which is alien. In generally, the void and the alien damage types, they just more or less they counter each other, except for a player with experience should be able to use the ships to do major damage, but so far I haven't seen anything like that. And it could be buffed or improved overall. Well, it could be buffed to improve its overall lack of strength, or the next ship that they release, along with the next weapons that they release for it, could make up for the cruiser's overall general lack of power, but only time will tell with that one. The other problem I still see with them is the build time. Again, we don't have a second ship factory to produce or refit this new group of ships, and so far I don't see any time tokens for them, and they don't count as Axis or Xeno, so those tokens don't work with them. So in my opinion, they're impractical to use, just because we'd need a second ship factory to field this additional fleet and refit them as time goes on. And in general, they were just a bad idea from the start. I'm going to quickly open up and show you what I mean. The one thing that makes Axis ships unique is the fact that they have that resistance slot. They have 2 resistance slots when you mark upgrade them. I don't see a single resistance slot on this ship. And since it's a new class of ship entirely, it's the Marauder faction, it will not have the ability to equip the Xeno resistor or the Axis resistors to reduce the damage it takes. So right off the bat, the Berserker cruiser, compared to its counterpart, which is the Guardian cruiser, is a weaker ship overall. And if anyone thinks I'm crazy, I'm just gonna quickly jump in here. I'm gonna open this one. I'm gonna go like this. This is what I'm talking about. The Guardian cruiser, could have sworn that had 2. I must be blind. But it in general has less resistance, and the Punisher itself, at Mark, what, 2? I have a Mark 2 somewhere. Yeah, right here. At Mark 2, it has 2 resistance slots. The standard ships have more resistance to standard damage types than a PvP ship. How bad is that? I don't even have them, so I don't know what you can do with them. But so far, from what I've seen from videos, they lose to their own counterpart, which is the Guardian cruiser. Even with the new damage type and everything like that, they're built to fight each other, not the other factions. Except for you're gonna be fighting the other factions just because of how weak they are in comparison. The Guardians will walk all over the Berserkers every day of the week, hands down. And I just have one last thing I'd like to talk about, and this is a bit more of a... This is a balance problem, and I'm not talking about ships or anything like that. So with that aside, I would like to point out a few things in the game that are improperly balanced. Okay. These are not weapons or ships, but instead tech for the new ships, specifically the booster tech, range boosters, stuff like that. Thrusters aren't much of a problem because I see their weight being around the same, but still not as high. The weight of the new tech needs to be adjusted for balance reasons, in my opinion. Overall, it is just way too light compared to its research counterpart, which we used up to tier 5.5 before tier 6. Take the focused optics compared to the harmonic beam capacitor, which is the current price, for instance. A 40% weight increase against an 8% increase. It just doesn't seem right. And that's not mentioning the beneficial differences as well. A lower weight increase on the researchable booster tech needs to be considered, or possibly a weight increase on the new tech. Balance between the tiers needs to be more consistent than non-existent. The difference in weight would mean more capable fittings for all ships if a lower mass increase is set in place on the researchable tech. So instead of being a 40% boost on the... Actually, I'll just show you what I'm talking about. Instead of being a 40% increase on... Let's take the focus optics, for instance, a 40% mass increase compared to, as I said, an 8% on the harmonic beam capacitor. This should go up, not down, or the harmonic or the focused optics should go down to allow for better fittings, because higher tiers just, there's no balance at all. Weapons and stuff, they just went out the window and everything just went wacky and sideways. And it would also force higher tiers to focus more on fittings whenever they try to fit anything. And the heavier weight of the higher tier weapons is no excuse for the lower weight requirements in the higher tier booster tech. And what I mean by that is the weight shouldn't be so greatly different for tech that is doing almost the same thing. The only difference between the two is the harmonic beam capacitor should weigh more because it's doing more. In turn, it should be a 50% weight increase over your weapons just because of the fact that it's increasing the range as well as reducing the charge time. It's just improperly balanced. I've seen so many people complain about the new ships and the weapons and stuff like that, and I do know they're overpowered. And I know for a fact if I took my level 83 fleet, I could walk all over my base for days on end, and my base wouldn't be able to fight back. But with that also said, the new base changes will allow for lower repair times in the base, so we'll be able to do PvP in the bases more often just because they'll be fully repaired more quickly. The longest thing we'll have to repair is the bridge, but that's going to be brutal, and we all know it, regardless of what we put on it. And I'm going to do my closing thoughts on the actual event, because that was literally what I wanted to say. Those three subjects, the Marauders and the tech, the booster tech, that is just so wrong that it's so improperly balanced over the tiers, and it got worse and worse until it got to the point where it's at now. And I'm bringing it up just because it's disgusting, the fact that you can take the beam capacitor or the harmonic beam capacitor, which gives a range boost, and just overpowers what we researched. That shouldn't have happened. Not only does it provide better buffs, it should weigh more, hands down, just outright weigh more. Or the researchable tech should be rebalanced to weigh extremely less. At max, it should only weigh about 10% in increase to the weapon mass. And that is just because it would allow for more proper fittings, well, better fittings in our lower tier ships, and we'd be able to use heavier weapons, which would also allow us to increase the armor of the ships. Because a lot of us use energy weapons that are just monstrously weighted down in the lower tiers, such as these cruisers I built. Not the explosives, these guys. They're literally almost butt naked armor-wise because of the weaponry I gave them, so they don't have much in terms of armor. And like I said before about the repair time, the repair time for bases, that idea is an exceptionally good one, and I believe it will be well received. But the same thing could be done for ships. Make it so that the base repair time is the base health. So that everything I have on here doesn't mean anything towards the actual total repair time. Only the base repair time counts as anything for the ships. And it would be unique and special in that way. And it would be more engaging for the player base. And you'd most likely see players that have gone and left the game returning to play the game again. But those are just my thoughts on those few ideas, and I will leave a link in the description, at the top of the description, to the Kixeye post that talks about these things, because there's a lot more, especially for the PvP players. You guys are going to be getting the change for the Civil War, I believe, after the next update. I'm not going to say for sure on that, so don't take that like it's a fact. But most of what I said is my general thoughts and opinions on what is coming. Some of the good things I really am looking forward to, the base repair time. Because I mean, right now my main thing has 15 hours, so I've got about 5.5 extra hours over what it would normally be of only 10 hours, 23 minutes. And in generally, the ship prizes, I don't care about the weight because there's stuff with longer range with a higher weight at a lower tier with less damage that weighs more than that. So it is just unacceptable and inexcusable. Inexcusable, actually. Man, am I tired. But it is unacceptable that this happened, that it's such a low weight for such a great benefit, especially for weapons such as these. You want balance? Fix these, not the weapons. The weapons are balanced, but the tech to boost them, to make them unique, isn't. fix the weapons, and you'll fix the, well, fix the booster tech, and you'll fix the weapons. They'll still do their high damage and stuff like that, but then it'll be at a cost of weight. So you'll have to choose and pick what you want to put on the ship. But that's going to be it for this video, everybody. That was more or less what I wanted to talk about. And my general thoughts on the Dynasty event before I go are, I haven't hit any new targets, so I can't talk about them. I've just been focusing on hitting the 60s, as you saw. And my overall thought of the event is, it was actually fairly easy. And as the Ancient Reaper slowly progressed down lower tiers, it occurred to me that you may take more repair time, but you're also going to get more points for it compared to what you're doing now against the normal aliens for an extremely garbage payout. And yes, it is garbage, and it's an insult to you guys that have to fight the Reaper 40s just for points. And since they did away with the original hives, which were, in my opinion, the easiest and most entertaining way to earn points, it would be a grind to be able to step up into a new tier. And the build times of tiers is forever. But I'm going to leave it here. And as always, everybody, I hope you can get everything you want from the event and everything like that. And as always, I'll see you later.